Steam fogs the bathroom mirror, and your phone is still face down on the nightstand where you left it. You know the deposit landed. You felt the buzz at 6:43, while you were somewhere between asleep and not. You didn't pick it up. You already know what's in there. You already know roughly where most of it's going, and somewhere in the distance between knowing and deciding, something is already moving without you. That's the part nobody explains when they hand you your first paycheck, until you good luck out there. Not how to earn it, how to keep it from disappearing between the moment it arrives and the moment you look up 3 weeks later and wonder where it went. Because here's what actually happens on payday for most people. The deposit lands, the brain registers available, and before a single conscious decision gets made, the money has already been filed away as spoken for. Rent, the card from 2 months ago, the thing you've been meaning to handle since February. It doesn't matter that none of it has technically left your account yet. It's already gone in the only place that makes it real, which is in your head. And the rest, the part that isn't immediately accounted for, that part gets spent the way air gets let out of a tire. Not all at once, slowly. A lunch here, a subscription you forgot was still running, a ride home because it was raining and you were tired and you'd think about it later. By the time you actually open the app, the number is smaller than you remember, and you can't fully explain the difference. This happens to people who are not careless. This happens to people who are paying attention. It happens because nobody ever taught you what to actually do with a paycheck before it decides what to do with itself. So here is the formula. Not a theory, not a framework you'll read once and forget. The actual sequence in order that changes what payday does to your life. Step 1. Give every dollar a job before it has a chance to apply for one itself. The problem with leaving money in checking is not that checking is a bad place for money, it's that checking is a waiting room where money sits until something comes to claim it, and things always come to claim it. The subscription service, the impulse that felt reasonable at 10 at night, the dinner that got charged to the card because you'd think about it later. Your money does not need a waiting room, it needs a destination. The way you give it one is simple, and it takes about 20 minutes to set up once, and then it runs without you for the rest of your life. You open 3 accounts, if you don't already have them. Checking for the actual flowing of day-to-day expenses, a high-yield savings account for the money that is not supposed to move, and a brokerage or retirement account for the money that is supposed to grow. Then you set up automatic transfers, not when you remember, not when it feels like a good month, automatic, scheduled, leaving on the day the deposit arrives or the day after it, before your brain has had a chance to look at the total and start making other plans. The specific amounts come later. Right now, the structure is the thing, the container before the contents. Your coworker Devin got a raise 6 weeks ago. You know because he mentioned it at lunch and then mentioned what he was doing with it, which was moving into a better apartment, nicer building, 1 more room, closer to the places he already goes enough. You didn't say what you were thinking. What you were thinking is that you've watched this exact sequence play out before. More money arrives, the life around it expands to match, and 18 months later, Devin is earning more than he ever has and still running the same math at red lights that he was before the raise. Not because he's irresponsible, because nobody told him to build the container first. The container is the whole thing, not the discipline to resist spending, not the willpower to do the right thing on a Tuesday night when you're tired and the card is already open, just the automation, the decision made once in advance that removes the decision from every subsequent payday. Set it up, then leave it alone. Step 2. Find the line between what keeps you alive and everything else. Pull up your last 2 bank statements, not to feel bad about anything, just to look. Make 2 columns, one for what you actually need, rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, the bare cost of staying housed and functional, one for everything else. This exercise sounds simple. It stops being simple about 4 transactions in, which is when you realize how many things feel like needs that are technically something else. The streaming service you added during a slow stretch 2 winters ago, the gym membership you charge you on the first regardless of whether you went, the subscription box you signed up for and kept meaning to cancel. None of these are the problem individually. Individually, they are $5 here, $12 there, never quite enough to notice until you put them next to each other in a column and the total is real. What you're looking for is the line, the number that represents the actual floor of your life, what it costs to keep the lights on and the fridge stocked and the roof staying where it is. For most people, that number is somewhere around half of what comes in each month, sometimes less. Knowing that number does something to how you see the rest, because if half of what you earn is genuinely committed, that means the other half has been available this entire time, not disappearing into necessity, just disappearing into unexamined decisions made one at a time, never quite big enough to feel like a decision. You are not going to eliminate everything in the second column. That's not the point. The point is to see it clearly enough that the next choice you make in that column is actually a choice, not just a default. Cancel 2 things you genuinely don't use, not because it will change your net worth overnight, because the act of deciding is the thing. The muscle you're building is noticing before spending, which is the only thing that actually compounds. Step 3. Build the shield before you build anything else. Before the investing, before the extra debt payments, before you do anything else with the part of your paycheck that isn't going to fixed expenses, a portion of it goes to one place, a separate savings account with a boring name and a high yield attached to it. This account is not for the vacation, not for the thing you've been wanting, not for anything with a timeline or an intention attached to it. It is for the Wednesday morning phone call that is coming, whether you are ready or not. The car that makes a noise it's never made. The medical bill that shows up 6 weeks after you thought you were done with it. The moment your building sells and you have 60 days to find somewhere else to live. These things are not maybes. They are scheduled uncertainties. They will arrive. The only variable is whether you have a place to absorb them when they do. Most people don't, not because they haven't thought about it, because building this account requires tolerating a long stretch of time where the balance feels embarrassingly small and nothing dramatic has happened yet to justify its existence. $200 sitting in an account feels like nothing when the emergency you're preparing for costs $2,000, but $200 is not the point. $200 is the decision, the act of creating a place for money that is not available for anything else, not to your checking account, not to your impulses, not to the version of you at 11 at night who has a reasonable sounding idea. That account grows faster than it feels like it should once it has some room in it. 3 months of your actual essential expenses is the number to aim for. You don't need to get there this month. You need to start the direction, because once the shield is real, something shifts in how you experience money moving through your life. The unexpected stops being an emergency and starts being a line item, a number that moves from one account to another and costs you nothing except 4 minutes of mild inconvenience. That shift is worth more than the interest the account earns. It is worth the sleep, the Wednesday that stays a Wednesday instead of becoming a week-long spiral, the absence of decisions made under pressure that always cost more than the original number. Build the shield first. Everything else goes on top of it. Step 4. Kill the debt that is charging you rent on your own money. Open both balances. Put them next to each other. If you are carrying high-interest debt, anything above 10%, and most credit card debt runs somewhere between 18 and 24, that debt is a subscription you are paying on every dollar you owe. Every month you carry a 22% balance. A fifth of it is being added back on top. The dinner you charged 3 months ago is still costing you money. The weekend trip is still on the tab. The thing you bought because it was on sale and you'd pay it off next month is still there, slightly larger than it was. You already know this. The number sits in the app and you scroll past it the way you scroll past things you've accepted as permanent. It is not permanent. It is a priority. The sequence that actually works is not complicated. You pay the minimum on everything except the balance with the highest interest rate. On that one, you send everything extra you can find. Not a dramatic amount, not a number that requires sacrifice, just whatever is left in your checking account after the automatic transfers have run and the essentials are covered. When that balance hits 0, you take everything you were sending to it and aim it at the next one. This is called an avalanche for a reason. Slow at first, then not slow. The reason this matters beyond the obvious is that every percentage point of interest you stop paying is a percentage point that is now available to go somewhere that earns instead of costs. The 22% you stop paying to discover is 22% you can eventually direct somewhere that compounds in your direction instead of theirs. The night you pay off the first card, nothing about your apartment looks different. Your phone doesn't do anything special. You just close the app and go to bed knowing that tomorrow costs a little less than it did today, which is the quietest version of a head that exists, and also, over time, the most real.
Step 5. Get the free money before you do anything else with investing. Your company matches contributions to your retirement account up to some percentage of your salary. This is written somewhere in a document you received during onboarding and have not looked at since. Find that number, because the match is not an investment strategy. It is not a financial philosophy. It is free money with your name on it that you are currently leaving on the table every payday because the form seemed complicated and you had other things pulling at your attention. If your company matches 100% of your contribution up to 4% of your pay, and you are contributing 0, you are turning down a guaranteed 100% return on money you have not even put in yet. No investment in the world offers that. No stock, no index fund, no asset class. The match is the best return you will ever see on a dollar, and it requires only one thing, which is putting in enough to get it. Bump your contribution to at least the match threshold. Do it before you finish reading this. It changes your take-home by less than you think, and it changes your future by more than the math suggests on first look. After the match, if you have anything left in the monthly budget for investing, a Roth IRA is the next container to fill. The mechanics of it are simple. Money goes in after taxes. It grows without being taxed again. When you pull it out decades from now, none of it belongs to the government. Whatever the market returned over 40 years is yours, entirely. The annual contribution limit sits just under $7,000. You do not need to hit that number to start. $60 a month is enough to begin. Not because $60 changes anything immediately, but because the account being open and the habit being started is the thing that compounds. You do not need a large amount to invest. You need a consistent amount. The timeline does the rest. Step 6. Automate it and then stop managing it. Here's what the paycheck formula looks like when it is running correctly. The deposit lands. Before you have made a single decision, the transfers run. A set amount goes to the savings account, a set amount moves to the investment account or Roth. The bills account has what it needs. What remains in checking is the number you actually have to spend, not the number that arrived. And you do not have to do any math to know it because the math already happened. You find out the system worked by checking 3 days later when it no longer matters, not by watching it happen, not by managing it in real time, just by glancing at a number that is exactly where it should be.
This is the point where payday stops being a decision and starts being a reoccurring event that your past self already handled. Your coworker Marcus checks his investment account every day. He has opinions about earnings calls. He moved 12% of his portfolio in March because something felt uncertain and got back in 2 months later at higher prices than when he left. He doesn't bring that up anymore. You check yours once a month, sometimes less. The balance is higher than last month. You note it. He closed the app. The market will drop at some point while you are doing this. Not if, when. Your phone will fill with notifications you didn't request. Everything will feel urgent. People around you will have opinions about what you should do, delivered with the confidence of people who also don't know. You do nothing. The automated transfer runs on the first of the month like always. You stay in. Staying in during the drop is worth more than any optimization you can make during the calm. The people who got out in March and got back in 2 months later didn't save themselves from anything. They just moved money from a lower number to a higher one in the wrong direction and paid taxes on the sale. You didn't have to decide not to do that. You had nothing to decide. The automation already made the choice. Step 7. Raise your savings rate every time your income rises. This is the one that determines everything over a long enough timeline. When the raise comes, when the bonus hits, when the freelance project pays out, the instinct is to let the life expand to meet it. Nicer version of the same things. One more subscription. The upgrade that finally feels affordable. Some of that is fine. Not all of it. The formula is simple. Half of every increase goes to the savings rate before the lifestyle sees it, not afterward, before. The direct deposit changes. The automatic transfers change at the same time. What reaches checking is whatever is left. The raise disappears from your experience of daily life because you redirected it before your daily life knew it existed. Your savings rate goes up by half of whatever the raise was as a percentage of your income. Your lifestyle improves modestly, and the gap, the distance between what you earn and what you spend, widens slightly. That gap compounding over 10 years is the difference between the version of your life where money is always tight despite making more than you ever have, and the version where you stop noticing the stress
because the stress no longer has anything real to hold on to. It is not one big decision. It is this one made repeatedly every time income moves upward before the lifestyle has a chance to expand to meet it. Here is what this actually feels like from the inside when you've been doing it for a while. Payday arrives, you feel the buzz at 6:43, or you don't feel it at all because you were still asleep. You do not open the app immediately. You do not do the mental math in the elevator or the car or the checkout line. You know that what needed to happen already happened, automatically, correctly, without requiring anything from the version of you who is tired and distracted and making decisions in real time. The bills account is covered, the shield has its portion, the investment account took its cut. What's in checking is yours. Not yours in the sense of available, the way it used to feel, that temporary sensation of fullness that lasted about 4 days before the familiar tightening set in. Yours in the sense of already accounted for on the other end, already doing something, already becoming something quietly in accounts you check less and less often because the news is always roughly the same. The balance went up. The direction held. You drive home on a Tuesday and the deposit from 2 days ago is barely a memory, not because it disappeared, because it's already somewhere it's supposed to be, already working, already compounding in the specific slow way that things compound when nobody's watching them and nothing comes along to interrupt. Your phone is still face down on the nightstand. You already know the deposit landed. You don't need to check. The system already did.